So Packers and the Giants in London, early in the morning on Sunday. I know that my Packers traveled on Thursday yesterday, and that it's one of those things that no each team has their set plan with traveling, and this is actually the first game in London between two winning teams that are both 3-1 on the season. Um, the Giants only losing to Dallas in week 3, and then the Packers losing obviously week 1 to the Vikings. So honestly, in my opinion, a pretty big game for both teams. Um, One thing that I really noticed about both of these teams is that obviously the Giants have scored 76 points, over their first 4 games. And then, I mean, they've had 71 points again, so +5, differential for them. And then you look at the Packers have scored 75 with 69 scored against them, a plus 6 ratio. So very eerily similar, I guess, in terms of, points scored and points let up over the first 4 games. Um, to me, I guess the one thing that I will say sets the Packers apart from the Giants is that Rodgers, I mean, while he threw a pick six, against the Buccaneers, 2 weeks ago, and hasn't had, I guess, the season that you would, expect from him. Young wide receiver core, a couple of vets like Alan Lazard and Randall Cobb to throw to that have been really coming in clutch when they need to show leadership on the team. And then, I mean, the season that I guess Aaron Jones has been having, I think he's, got the spring in his step that he kind of lost last year, having been banged up. Um, and then you also look at AJ Dillon kind of having a silent year, not necessarily a bad one, still being somewhat effective. But then you look at the Giants, and I guess main problem with them is that they're missing their top wide receiver, Kenny Galladay, and it's just not been a very good um, passing attack for them at all. And very very slim victories across the board. Um, Saquon has I would say have somewhat of a resurgence this year in terms of how many yards he has had. But I mean, last week to me, he went up against a Bears defense that just doesn't know how to stop the run, didn't do a very good job of tackling, and if that's any indicator of Saquon's success is that he does well against bad defenses, I don't think he's gonna have that good of a time against the Packers, considering Quay Walker has proved to be pretty stout against the run. Devondre Campbell obviously comes to mind as a very very sure tackler and even pretty good cover man. And Daniel Jones is going to be going up against a way stouter defense overall this week, where he's going to have a pass rush that he's not going to necessarily be able to get away from very easily. And then the secondary that he's playing against this week is infinitely better than the Bears secondary. And he made some, questionable throws against even the Bears, who picked him off several times in that game. But you think about what's going on with, I mean, Daniel Jones, and that he doesn't have very many weapons, but he's still making reckless throws. A couple of the touchdowns that he got against the Bears just weren't, they didn't really show off, that he's an athletic quarterback. I mean, he escaped the pocket, essentially 2 free touchdowns to run in on against the Bears, who just didn't do any job at all at containing him. Where I don't think that's going to be the case against the Packers. I mean, the Packers have, put spies on QBs already this season that are mobile, and running QBs just haven't had that much success against the Packers this season. Um, Because if you look at, the game itself, and then you look at, the Packers and, their full schedule this year, I know that, the Bears, they had put a spy on. They had put a spy on, Fields, who didn't run for pretty much anything when they played. Not that he's known for that too much, but he is pretty athletic. And I think that, Daniel Jones, while he's pretty athletic, I don't think that's his first thing that he wants to do, and the team doesn't really focus on that. He normally runs after, plays break down or he's able to escape and that sort of thing. And I think the Packers are going to do a lot better job of containing him than the Bears did, with Gary having a very impressive year so far, Kenny Clark, and then even Preston Smith, who has had a quiet year, but I wouldn't say has done, poorly against, QBs and forcing pressure and collapsing the pocket. So I think that Daniel Jones is really going to have to rely on his arm with a very depleted wide receiver core where he doesn't have, too many people to throw to. And then, of course, a way better secondary for the Packers, where if you look at, the injury report here, obviously he's without Kadarius Toney. He's been out for, weeks now with a hamstring. Kenny Golladay, their star wide receiver, that, hasn't done anything this year with a knee injury and has been out several games. Even Daniel Jones limited in practice, to me, it's like it's not going to be very good if you haven't practiced, to the fullest amount against a team that has a very good secondary. The last, couple weeks, even with Jair only playing 5 snaps against the Buccaneers, and then the secondary being, giving up yards, but still being very stout when they need to be. And this week, Jair Alexander is coming back. No injury designation for him. He was a full participant in practice, and David Bakhtiari, another player that, very limited, but I'm sure they're just trying to, make sure that he stays healthy. And, Adrian Amos, being out, but I think it was kind of proven that the backup safeties for the Packers are more than willing to come in and play and still make tackles and have an impact on the game while not giving up, big chunks of yardage. So to me, the Packers, are a lot healthier than the Giants are. I know that, it's the first, game ever for the Packers in London, actually, since they started doing these. And I know that there's certain Packers that are really, pumped to play in London. I guess that, that's a really good thing, and that the Packers travel very, very well. And that, Green Bay, Wisconsin is really only on the map because of the Packers. And I can imagine that there'll be probably more Packers fans, I think, at a London game than there would be Giants fans. No offense to the Giants, but the Packers are just one of the best traveling teams in the NFL. And I think that is going to give them an edge, for the fans to be getting loud and rambunctious, to really affect, a pretty depleted, Giants team. And even the Giants, I think, were giving up yards, to the run in their game. I think it's something that can't be overshadowed. And, not to say that the Bears have a terrible backup running back because David Montgomery is out. But if, the backup running back of the Bears can do well, I think that, even Aaron Jones could have a really, really good game. I think that the run game will only get better the more that Bakhtiari and, Jenkins are paired together and the line gets the synergy, because Jones has already been having, a monster year with, I think it's like 8.6 yards average or something like that, or something, really high, where, it's very rare that, hi Prime Touge. What's good? I'm just predicting the game. But I think that the Packers just and the Giants. I think that this game is going to go to the Packers, and I'm going to say Packers by 10, you know, and I mean, I guess the thing that I didn't really mention is that I think that the Packers, are only going to get better offensively with the wide receivers. They showed some really great promise last week. Romeo Dobbs had the potential to, end the game with a second TD, but him and Rodgers already seemingly having pretty good chemistry. And I think Watson, having been injured and missed a good amount of training camp, I think he'll eventually come along. But he is getting open. And I know that watching Aaron Rodgers on even the Pat McAfee show, he said that, Watson and Dobbs have very similar characteristics to, I guess, even Davante in year one. When Davante wasn't, very solid as a rookie, and I mean, obviously not as polished route running, but he does see Watson getting open, and I think it's only a matter of time until he starts getting it to, Christian Watson regularly in the passing game. Because obviously his first touchdown as a Packer came on a jet sweep where he just showed off, his incredible speed. Where I mean, they weren't able to contain the edge at all because of his long strides, and I don't even think that was his, top speed. Going back to last week against the Patriots, but I think that with as stout a defense as the Packers, and I think with the offense, somewhat coming together, that the Giants, with the depleted offense and a good amount of guys missing even on the defense. I think Azeez Ojulari was doing well before he had his calf injury. And I mean, it does seems like they're missing a lot of players on defense. Leonard Williams being banged up is not good for them. He's one of their should be stars of the team. So yeah, that's I mean numerous players I think that are injured on their team. That's going to really make it hard for the Giants to perform, and especially against a Packers like defense that has proven that they're very good at invoking pressure and mistakes, and only one interception so far on the year. But I think that can change, but they may get to Daniel Jones quite a bit. But otherwise, yeah, my prediction is Packers by 10. I think that they can easily score even maybe possibly 35 points in this game. I think that Saquon's playing very well, but I think that's going to be hard for him against a defense like this, and especially if the Packers are able to get out to a quick lead. But otherwise, that's my prediction for the Packers-Giants game.